Hello and welcome to another episode of Dance Teachers Academy. I am your host, Jose on the mic, and with me as always is the lovely, amazing dancer, Amay. How are you doing?
Jose, I'm great today. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. It's a beautiful day outside. We're going to talk about that, but before we do that, let's break bread and speak with our good brother here. Good to have you again. AJ Amyx is back in the house.
What's up, guys?
How you doing, brother?
I'm awesome, dude. Awesome.
Dude, you're looking good, fit. What's going on?
Dude, keto and workout.
Really?
Yeah. Started keto 7 days ago now.
What is that?
Keto is no carbs, period. Doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist.
But for me, it's great because I'm only eating 3 times a day because that whole 5-time meal prep thing, I've done that before. It's a lot of hard work for me.
Yeah.
So now keto, I get to eat meats, fats, oils, and vegetables. So like for breakfast, 3 eggs, 2 pieces of Black Forest bacon. For lunch, taco salad. And then tonight we'll have like cheeseburger without the bread and some broccoli.
Oh,
or
that's
something
pretty
like
good.
That. It's so good. So good.
It's like a diet for a carnivore. My kind of
much,
thing.
Yeah. You just go out there and go hog wild, pretty much.
Yeah.
So essentially, if you break down the science, like if you use carbs, sugars, our body's burning glucose, right?
Correct.
And then if you're in ketosis, your body is transferring, because there's no carbs and there's no glucose, really. So it then goes into ketosis to burn ketones, which is fat. That's it. So that's why you go into a keto diet or something if you want to stay lean and also maintain muscle tone.
Sure, yes.
Because it doesn't eat away your muscle. Like if you're on a somewhat low carb diet, it's actually going to pull from fat and from muscle.
Well, that sounds like a great diet for dancers.
I would think so. Now, I am no ketosis expert by any means, but, maybe
I'm not an expert either, but it sounds pretty good.
I'm wondering how's that working with, maybe 1 or 2 beers. I mean, because you understand, I hear there's some carbs in there.
No beers.
Wow.
Right? Because you have to maintain below 10 carbs a day, from what I understand. Now, some ketosis experts going to come smack me in the face because maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Which is total possibility. Mm. But yeah, below 10 carbs a day, that way you're staying in ketosis. So yeah, and even no alcohol.
Okay, so they are...
We might have to rethink.
We'll have to rethink that. I'm checking to see what the carbs in red wine is. That's the other thing that's going to be big on us on that.
So the reason I wanted to try it for the next 30 days, I'm always like trying things. Like, let's try this for a 30-day body goal, fitness goal.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, let's try ketosis because I've tried the meal plan thing. Too much work for me, and I just feel bloated. I felt bloated.
Gotta eat again.
Yeah, exactly. So now I don't feel bloated, which was my goal. I was like, how do I stop feeling bloated?
I like that whole idea. Get up and have the bacon and the eggs, but no toast, which is I'm good with.
I'm good with it, for sure.
Okay, gentlemen, so thank you.
We digress.
Yes. I just want to talk about, we invited AJ to come and speak with us again, and it just turns out we are having this podcast on September 11th. So first I want to say to all the families and people that were affected by September 11th, and that's a lot of us. But
it's a lot of people and a lot of first responders. Shout out to them,
and the
doing
families.
the hard work.
Yeah,
and our prayers go out to those folks because it was even if you didn't lose anybody. I had lots of friends out there that I literally didn't hear for like 3-4 days a week, and I was just blowing up their phones. Because they just couldn't get back to their homes. So.
And our topic happens to be today episodic careers. So I feel like that's all very appropriate.
Timely.
Oh, by the way, there's a few hurricanes out in the wilderness out there. So
yes, and so our schedule has been slightly inconvenienced because of the hurricane, and then I'm just looking at what people are going through. Their whole lives have changed, and so I asked you to speak about this, and we originally, when I was communicating with you, I was referring to episodic careers specifically for someone that was in a corporate environment.
For sure.
And then, something happened, right? Maybe a layoff, something like that. And now their whole world has changed. We can talk about that in terms of weather and hurricanes and things like that. But it's such a big deal. I found out about that terminology from an email from Chase Bank to its customers.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How so?
So there's sent out, just a kind of a newsletter type of thing, and talking about how Chase Bank could help this person in their particular story had an episodic career change, and they had a whole article about that.
Nice.
And I'm thinking, if Chase Bank is writing articles and sending it to a general email to their customers, wow, this is a thing. So what say you, AJ?
What do they define by episodic career?
So it was specifically in this email, we were speaking about this one gentleman who was in a corporate environment and then, had some kind of layoff company-wide, and now he had to redefine his life and his career and
reinvent himself. I know that one.
Yes. So that was kind of interesting to me.
For sure. So there's this other conversation that fits within this conversation.
Okay.
So another terminology that this may be called is like the gig economy, right? Where you're no longer an employee, you're a contractor using your skill sets, being hired by a corporation as a contractor to fulfill some type of role, right?
Yes.
And so I feel like there's a big opportunity in the marketplace, and I feel like we're also going to continue to move in this direction. It's going to get bigger and bigger. And I don't know if I remember I mentioned this on the last podcast or not, but I read a stat by 2020. This was from Intuit, QuickBooks, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
By 2020, 40% of the American workforce would be independent contractors.
You did say that.
Actually, you did mention. I didn't remember the numbers. I
interesting.
thought it was a pretty large number.
Yeah. So 40%, that's a lot.
Yeah.
If I remember my stat right.
Yeah.
And so if we think 2020, I think, that's a long way away. But it's not. We're in 2017 right now.
3 years away.
Almost wrapping up 2017.
Exactly.
Really, here in 3 months.
Exactly.
So we're about 2 years away from 40% of the American workforce being independent contractors. And I possibly see that continuing to grow to 50 to 60 to 70, just because that's where I feel like the world's shifting to. And so if we look down at the breakdown of history to paint the worldview of this whole perspective, we started in the agrarian age where we were all farmers, right? And when we were farmers, we owned our own business. Mm-hmm. In the agrarian age, it was all about craftsmanship and who had the best produce, and you built your brand. When somebody bought your furniture, they bought your farm, they bought your whatever they're buying from you. They're like, they want to buy from you because you are good at your craft.
Yes.
Right? Well, then we had the industrial age roll around, and then the farmers traded in their jobs, their craftsmanship, to become a cog in the wheel within a factory.
Right.
Now, within a factory, don't question the process. Mm-hmm. Henry Ford's the brain of, let's say, Ford Motors at that time.
Sure.
And if you said, well, you should make this green and do all these colors, Henry would be like, they're black, period. This is my vision. If you don't like it, you're out of the factory.
Yeah. Thank you for your thoughts.
Not even thank you for your thoughts. It's just like
you're
I
out
didn't
of here.
ask you for your thoughts.
That's true.
Right.
And this was the industrial age where people then became a cog in the wheel, and the creative aspect of the game was completely
Suppressed.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then we moved into the information age, which a lot of people still think that we're in today, where then technology started coming to play, where we didn't need all of these people because we could build systems and processes that would do the job of people, which is becoming more and more and more. And then why do you think these people are being laid off? Why are these people saying, well, I don't need to pay you $80,000, $100,000 a year. I could hire somebody at $40,000 a year, $30,000 a year, $50,000 a year to do this job. And yet this person who has been there for 20 or 30 years, I feel bad for them. I really do. Because they were conditioned to believe that being in a corporate job is security. Right? But it's not.
That's right.
Unless you're taking control of your career and creating life on your own terms, it's never secure. Now, I don't want to get into the conversation that everybody must be an entrepreneur, because if I said that, that would not be the truth. Because some people are not built, right? They don't think about being an entrepreneur. It's just not in their DNA. It's not in their genes. They're the ones who the entrepreneurs need to build their business for certain skill sets, and that's why they could
the support system.
The support system, exactly. So really the only job security there is in today's marketplace, which we're going to get into here in a second, which is you just have to have the skill sets and the mindsets, whether you are a corporate employee with the mindset that, man, I better be ridiculously passionate about this career and being able to learn and improve every single day, because if not, I'm going to be dispensable. You know?
Right.
So if I'm being paid $80,000 a year, I'm not entitled to that $80,000 a year or $100,000 a year. I have to think through, how do I provide $200,000 of value for this corporation? Because if not, somebody's going to come and take my spot, right? And the only way we can do that is by, even as an employee, continuing to level up our mindsets and our skill sets within that current job description, so you become indisposable. It's not as simple as just logging in, punching in your time clock and do what's required, and then like, well, I've done what I've done, you owe me my money. No, you can't have this entitled mindset. You have to kind of have an entrepreneurial mindset, but you're not an entrepreneur, you're still an employee role if we're in the corporate game.
Sure.
Now, outside of that, if we are, we didn't see it coming and we did lose our job for whatever reason, or we were transitioned out, maybe the company went bankrupt, well, then we have to take a hard look at ourselves and say, okay, well, do I want to go back into that game knowing that just this happened doesn't mean that I, as a human being, do not have personal worth, right? But instead, how do I take my skill sets, my mindsets, and go work in a corporation that I'm in congruence with, and that's a possibility. Or the other opportunity is to say, okay, well, how could I be an independent contractor? How could I work in this episodic, what'd you call it?
Episodic career.
Episodic career.
Yeah.
How could I work in this idea of the gig economy where I could package my skill sets and my value, create a brand, and go out and work for corporations, but as an independent contractor, right?
Right.
That's a possibility as well. So the age that we live in right now, in my opinion, is not the age of information. Yes, there's massive amounts of information that flows like water. But I believe that we live in the age of intuition, which means that beyond the information, just because I have information to be able to do a job, if I'm not confident and certain in my ability to do that job, people can feel, like they literally can feel who I am at my core. Therefore, they're going to choose, whether it's that independent contractor or whether it's that employee, the person who's most confident and certain in doing that job. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yes.
Right? And
Yes.
so this is where people have to look at as we're going into this game, coming kind of back to the agrarian society where you love what you do so much that you're one of the best people in the world at it. And how do you do that? Well, you have to be extremely passionate about it, because if you're not, there's going to be somebody hungrier than you who's going to consume all of the information that exists. And by the way, we have created more information probably in the past 6 years than in the entire history of humanity via Facebook posts, tweets, video content, podcast content. There's a stat out there, I just don't know off the top of my mind, but we have literally created more content in the past 5 or 6 years than in the entire history of humanity. That's a lot of information.
That is a lot of
That's
information.
a lot of information. And so for us to adopt this mindset of like, well, I have the secret sauce and you can't have access to it, you're like, come on, bro. I can go do a Google search and find out what you know.
Sure.
Right? So they're not paying somebody necessarily for what they know. They're paying that person, whether it's an employee or a contractor, to get the results. And the only way that that contractor can get the result is by being extremely passionate about it, having the skill sets to back it up, and being willing to do the work and follow through on their word to be that person who's going to honor that commitment.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, commitment, that's important. Follow through.
Exactly.
Extremely important.
sure.
Yes.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Well, they can't trust you, then
Right.
you know what?
You
Take
gotta-
it on the heel and toe.
For sure.
I'll get the next guy up.
Yeah.
True.
For sure. So I wanted to paint this kind of background of the history so, people could as they're listening to this or as they're watching this,
They're watching us now.
they could see like, okay, cool. Well, here's the progression of history where it has been, what's
Yes,
gone
that's
on,
such an
and where
interesting
we're
way to
at
talk
today,
about it,
so we
yeah.
could wrap a worldview to see, oh, okay, so this is the game and how it's played today. And so these people who are coming out of university who have been indoctrinated to believe, well, you just have to have a degree, and if you can do that, then you're qualified to do a job. No.
No.
That's the old
It
model.
is interesting because there is somebody that I know that is, I'm not going to say any names, but okay, he is a client at the studio, and he is a professor, and he is connected with a corporation, and he connects his students with that corporation. So there is still a bit of that training and that mindset.
For sure.
And gosh, what a disappointment if they get all set up into this big company, and then at a young age get laid off, possibly. Totally possible.
For sure. Well, even in the mindset of those taking, like millennials taking jobs, their mindset's vastly different. They do not go into that job thinking, I will be here for 20 years.
Well, that's true because of the information that, like you said, that's been out there, you know, and it's reality.
For sure.
Yes.
For sure. And this is driving the baby boomers insane because they're like, why don't you operate the way we operate?
Yes.
And they're like, well, because we don't like anything that you did. We see
the problem.
And we can feel you're unhappy and that you suck it up every single day and you sell your soul for what?
Right.
For money to then come back and hate your family, to come back and hate yourself?
Yes.
No, I don't want to abide by those rules. And then so many of the millennials take it to the extreme other end, which is, well, I'm entitled as long as I show up. But there are another certain percentage, right? There's always the extremes in anything that we're going to talk about.
Sure, there are.
But there's also the majority of people, in my opinion, who are actually going to be willing to do the work and are extremely passionate about their job, who are saying, well, I don't like this types of things and these values from this era. And so I'm willing to shift, and I see this as a possibility. So how could we then work together to create this new outcome?
Right.
And the corporations like Hilton, for example, I think they're voted like top 10, top 20, top 5 places to work in America.
Oh, that's great.
They don't make their people clock in. You know, they're just like, get here, do your job.
Really?
They don't clock in. You know, some of them, if they want to work from home, work from home. Just get your job done. You know, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So a lot of the companies, the corporations, they're starting to get this and saying, okay, well,
and they're shifting as well.
They're starting to shift because they're paying attention to the mindsets of what is going on in reality and how can we create win-win relationships so we're profitable and so you're happy. Because if we could do that, then we're ultimately, as a corporation, going to reduce our turnover because training costs take a lot of time, a lot of money.
What affects the bottom line.
Exactly.
That's all they really care about. At the end of the day.
You're right.
At the end of the day, it's all about the bottom line.
Exactly. Just like all we care about kind of at the end of the day about this show is, do you enjoy it? Or you listening, do you enjoy it?
Right.
You know, because if the fruit is they don't like the fruit, well, then we would have to change the whole dynamic of the show.
Right, exactly.
Our goal is to give them what they want.
Yeah. True. Yes.
To a certain extent, this is a service industry.
Absolutely. I mean, for sure.
If they're not happy with what they're seeing, you know what? They don't pick up the podcast.
That's why we have lights.
Yeah, how about that?
Oh, and by the way, we're closer because our audience asked for that.
Yeah,
yes,
that's what
they wanted to see our faces closer.
There you go.
Yeah.
And we're squished up here, so if you see me fidgeting, that's why. But I love you, and I did it for you. But I want to talk about, so just in terms of, let's say, there's someone that's worked in a corporate environment. And they have passion, and they have energy, and they have creativity.
For sure.
And so they're shifting now into, as you said, reinventing themselves. What do you think about, what is your sense about that feeling of wanting to go back to that corporate environment, or the possibility of that? Because as you're moving into something new, it's a little strange, a little scary, and like, I don't know what this is. Do you follow what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay.
And I think this is, if somebody's wanting to not go back to corporate, the most important thing they could ever figure out and be 100% clear on is, why do they not want to go back? Because if we don't understand why, we're not going to hold through on that commitment. And sometimes we have to fabricate a why and leverage enough pain for us to be able to make that change. Right? So one kind of tactical tool somebody can do is pull out a piece of paper or their journal and write down, why do I want to leave corporate? What will it cost me if I do not leave? And so for some people, maybe it's regret. Maybe they'd feel like, well, if I died, I would regret knowing if I, didn't harness my skill sets that I would actually be able to pull this thing off.
Right.
Okay? That could be some pain. Or maybe they would say, well, I've been working, 80 hours a week, 90 hours a week for the past, I don't know, how many years. And as a result, my family life and dynamic is completely chaotic. So if I do not figure out how to make this transition and find this life-work balancing, notice I said balancing, not balance, because balance does not exist. Balancing is the only thing that's actually true.
An active every day we are trying to maintain.
It's an adjustment
balance.
every single day.
It's the same thing as we dance. It's a constant. It's not like, okay, we're in a certain position, we start that way. It's a constant energy to
Constantly
maintain that. Yes.
And even if you are standing on one leg and you're balanced, your foot's continuously moving, making these micromental adjustments to keep you balanced. So really it's an act of balancing to create this result we call balance.
Got
right?
it. Yeah.
So work life is no different.
Yes.
We're going to work some more sometimes and have less time invested in a relationship. Other times we may spend more time in our relationships and less times working. But as long as we have targets set in each of these and we're very clear on what we want to create in both of these dynamics, then we can do the work to be able to create these realities. So that's what I would say. We have to come back to figuring out why, truly deeply, why does somebody want to truly leave and not go back?
Yeah, and so this is another reason I'm bringing this up, because you brought up about the contract labor in 2020 being about 40%. Then we had Lisa Solomon on the podcast, who owned a studio for 20 years, and she always had creative people that wanted to always wanted to dance come in until 2008, when there was that big recession, downturn in the economy. Yes, and now she was having people that were in the corporate world that just decided, I am not going back to that because I'm unhappy.
Sure.
And, oh, by the way, I just got disappointed from this company that I just invested all these years, and I'm going to go to something creative, so different. So this is what brought up this idea. I was like, wow. And so she had, just different people from different careers now wanting to be a dance instructor.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, think about this dynamic between agrarian age and the industrial age, where we had people, when we had farms, the family unit was very connected.
Yes.
Because we'd sit down, we'd break bread every night with the family.
Passing the trade on to the son, also.
True.
Yes.
And the kids are working side by side with the mother and father,
yes.
right? Whether it's cooking, whether it's sewing or whatever it was for women during those times, and men learning how to work with their hands, and whether it was farming or even going out and hunting and skinning animals and all of these life skills, they were doing life together.
Yes.
And making money and being happy in the process. Now, that doesn't mean that stress didn't exist.
Right.
There were still bugs that came in and ate crops. And you're like, storms
Storms ruin things. Didn't
tornadoes.
Get droughts.
Yeah. Because there's still life that happens.
Right.
But they were, as a unit, able to move through that process. Then when we decided to trade in that lifestyle, because essentially that's a lifestyle.
Correct.
We traded in that lifestyle for working in the family. The father is now out of the home, spending lots and lots of time working from whatever time to whatever time.
10, 12 hours a day.
12 hours.
At least.
Yeah.
Oh,
right?
easily.
At least. In conditions that he probably didn't really like, especially in the early days of the Industrial Revolution in the society then. Mm-hmm. You ever read Oliver Twist?
Right?
Okay.
Yes.
And then you could look at, okay, well, now these children are growing up in a home where they don't have connection to a father. And then the cascading consequence is a father who comes back into that household who's tired. So when the kids are like, hey, let's go out and shoot stuff with slingshots or whatever they did, I don't know, play golf, whatever they did then, okay? Whatever they did.
Okay, I'm going to give you that one.
We may have comments.
Yes.
They were like, no.
Dance Teachers Academy would like to know that the thoughts of the Academy are their thoughts and their thoughts alone.
So here's the deal. I grew up hunting with my family, so that was something we did as a bonding thing as guys. So for those who are like, no hunting, and they want to come stab me in the face, that's cool, to each their own, and each has their own viewpoint. So anyway, let's get back on track here. Mm-hmm. So we have this idea where now when the father comes home and the family wants to hang out with father, he's like, man, I'm too tired. I just want to decompress, watch some football, whatever it is. And now there's even more disconnect from children, and those values and the learnings aren't being passed on to the child, and then the child has to figure out life on his own, right? So just think about how you guys learn, or even as a child learns. A child doesn't learn by what we tell them to do. They learn by what they see, right? I would be willing to bet that your driving patterns, Ame, your driving patterns, Jose, and even mine, they're probably similar to my mom or dad's driving patterns, because we rode in the back seat for many, many, many years before we drove observing how to drive. So therefore, when we then decided and we got to 16 we could drive, well then a lot of those patterns, well we do because that's what all we know.
Yeah.
That was the environment in which we were raised.
The mom seat belt.
Exactly. The mom seat belt. Yeah.
Which doesn't work, by the way.
Exactly. The mom just gets her arm broke.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Crushed on the
Okay. So if we look at this dynamic, it's kind of this same thing where one lifestyle for the other lifestyle. And then now we're in this other place where we're like, okay, well, this model's not working. There's certain aspects that are falling apart. There's plenty of data that shows these dynamics. Which lifestyle are we going to choose? And so I feel like once we come into this age of intuition, and more people are using their skill sets and their craftsmanship to be one of the best at whatever it is that they do. Whether it's being a dance teacher, whether it's being an art instructor, whether it's being a graphic designer, a photographer, a videographer, somebody who's designing apps and applications and websites, or whether we're doing fashion or movies or cinematography or writing, composing music for the scores of music, whatever that is, then we're going to be able to kind of come back to this agrarian-based lifestyle where we can have a plugged-in family dynamic and have more of this work-life balancing
Working
because
together.
for so many years it's been out of balance. And now we're at this place where we're like, we have to come back into balance.
pendulum swinging back, as it were.
For sure. For sure.
So interesting, yeah. And you're right. There's been so many books written on this subject, and just thinking about just that disconnect. For example, I had mentioned it earlier about the father passing down the trade to the son, and how that in doing that created a relationship and a closeness and a training of the young man.
For sure.
You know, and then because of corporate lifestyle or father being away from home. Oh, by the way, father might come home drunk because he's not happy with the corporate lifestyle and all the problems that would cause.
And there's 2 or 3 pubs on the way home, so I'm walking here. I'm getting thirsty.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'm not me. I'm, the fictitious dad we're talking about.
Right. So, it's so many, hey, the psychologists are busy, trying to have everyone work through all of that. Yeah. So what have you seen in terms of people that are successful in moving from that environment and embracing? You mentioned some today already, but
Sure. Yeah, so let's hop into a framework of how to pull this off. So there's several P's. There's product, right? Knowing exactly what we're going to offer and sell. So if we come back, let's stick with this agrarian age example.
I like it.
If I'm not clear on what crops I'm growing, okra, black-eyed peas, watermelon, corn, right? If we're not clear on what we're growing, well, it's going to be hard for us to say, well, we're going to start this farm, and this is how we're going to be profitable, and this is how many units we need to sell to be able to take care of our family and our household. So we have to be clear, number one, on the product. Now, once we're clear on the product, we have to come into, well, how do we stand out above the noise of the marketplace? Because we live in a day of information where information flows like water, where anybody could say they do or create these products. From the palm of their hand, they could say, hey, I do this, which is what you do, right? And so we say, okay, well, how do we stand out? Well, that comes down into the positioning piece and also being ridiculously clear on who are the people that you're going to serve.
Target audience.
The target audience. So we have to be really clear on what are those people, who are those people, what are their desires, what are their pains, what are they dreaming about, what are they ardently trying to avoid. Like, we got to be clear on the target audience. And then the positioning piece, we have to be extremely clear on what is our story of connection and what is our story of credibility. Because stories are the only thing that's going to separate the three of us. If we offered Dance Teachers Academy all together, who's going to listen to it and vibe and connect with our stories? There's a great book called Winning the Story Wars by Jonah Sachs, and it's called, and the subtitle of that is Those Who Tell the Best Stories Rule the Future. So it's all going to be about stories. In the old world, we would say, hey, I have arrived, I have all the solutions, you know nothing, pay attention to me and buy my thing. Now, in the game that we're in today, Age of Intuition, we're like, I hear you saying this, but I don't feel this from you. Interesting. So you're incongruent. Now, next. And the person who's congruent with the product and their stories and their marketing, which we get in here in a second, they're like, I trust you. I can feel your genuine authenticity. I can feel that you actually have the confidence and certainty to lead me to the result I want.
So you're somebody I'm connecting with.
Exactly. And then beyond that, they can say, oh, interesting. You have been where I've been, and you understand where I'm going, and you do have my solution. Let me come play with you.
Yeah, I'm going to listen to you.
Yeah,
Sure.
Exactly. So that's the people in the position. And then we move into the platform, which is the website, the online platform. And I always tell people, don't bootleg this. Meaning your offline confidence should match your online confidence and vice versa. Because how many people create this amazing website, beautiful podcast artwork, and then you listen to their show and you can feel their lack of confidence and certainty, right? When
should be an extension of yourself.
Exactly. This comes back down to this whole idea of congruency, and congruency has to be this thread that goes through everything. It has to be congruent. And if we get honest with ourselves and we say, well, I'm going to package all this stuff to be beautiful, and it's like, well, why? Well, because I don't feel confident. So if I have all of this pretty looking stuff, then maybe I can try in that confidence. And for some, that's a piece that does help. But for those who think having the pretty packaging in and of itself is going to fix and solve the confidence issues of self, no. Until you dive deep into why you're not confident and certain, packaging isn't going to help just in and of itself. It's both. Right?
Yes.
So the platform is the website. What is your opt-in offer? So you're building your email list. So you're building that audience. What are the social media platforms that you need to be on? How is everything branded consistently? And then we move into the game of promotions, which is how do we generate awareness for what we do by creating content, content marketing. What are your social media posts? What are your paid traffic strategies? So you have some sustainability. You don't have to start there, right? You can start with a lot of organic hustle, but then we get to the promotion, and then ultimately we get into this persuasion piece where we are continually to up-level our ability to have skill sets to be able to sell, right? So if we look at this whole progression of like, well, here I am, I have a job in corporate, I have to transition, and I want to move out. Step number one, what are you selling? Like, we have to get ridiculously clear on what are you selling. And beyond that, we can't just say, well, I'm selling a wooden wallet, which my buddy John Fuller with the Are You Real podcast sent me. It's a really cool wallet, right?
Very organic.
It's very weird, organic. Dude, I love weird stuff.
Is it like wood and a rubber band?
It's a wooden rubber band. That's all it is.
But it's awesome.
He took that off a bundle of like broccoli. So
probably so.
That's
But he's recycling. He's
well,
thinking of the earth.
In fact, I think it says broccoli on it. I'm just kidding. So we have to figure out, okay, so if I'm selling a wooden wallet, what are the benefits? Why would I want this? So the benefit is, well, it holds my stuff. That's true.
Yeah.
Stuff's not going to fall out of it. That's another benefit. But another benefit for me, for the people who are going to buy these weird things, are going to be, you like something ridiculously weird that nobody else has.
Yes.
I'd be like, I want that.
It's
I want
a good size.
You know what I mean? And then I would pay for this, whatever this was.
Credit card size.
Right. And so we have to think through what are the benefits of what we're selling. So if we look at the game of, well, I have these skill sets of being a photographer. So outside of my corporate career, I've just done photography all these times, and I did on the side. Now it's time to take it from my side hustle to my full-time income. What are the benefits of working with you as a photographer? If we want to look at your corporate career, maybe you've been a project manager for 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years maybe. And we go, okay, well, what are the benefits of you being a project manager, and how could you sell yourself as a project manager? Because there's creative people like me. I am the world's worst project manager. I am not good at project management, nor do I care to be good at project management. It is not my unique gift. It is a weakness of mine, and I let it be a weakness of mine, and I will just pay somebody to be a project manager. Why do I need to go through learning how to be a project manager when that's not my unique gift? There's no need for it. Right?
Let somebody else swing that mallet.
Exactly. And let me stay in my zone of genius, which is completely different. So that's one aspect. Another instance of somebody in corporate, maybe they're ridiculously good at customer service and they could create some type of consultancy agency that's helping corporations figure out how do we get better at customer service. Because if a corporation, if a business in today's economy is not good at customer service,
they're not going to stay open for long.
No way. No way.
Everything is about the reviews.
Everything's about the reviews, but more importantly, everything is about the customer experience. Again, age of intuition. If I'm not feeling good about our ability to trade, I give you money every month, you give me a service every month, why do I want to continue doing that if that is a shitty experience?
Right.
If it makes me angry, if it's not working, if I can't talk to a human being to find solutions,
right.
I don't want to engage in that transaction anymore, and I want to find the company who I can give that money to so I can still get what I want, but I also can have relationships. Yes.
Yep. No, I'm good.
Okay, cool. So people want to do business with people.
Right. I was just going to say, because as much as technology we have out there that makes everything so convenient for us, sometimes we just want to pick up the phone and talk to someone and explain this to me. I saw it on the website. I looked at it in detail, but now explain it more.
Sure. Listen, and you don't have to be articulate per se, but at least get the marbles out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Because I've sat there and spoken with somebody, and there's just not enough light in the room for me to see what they're saying. It's just ridiculous. I'm like, why is this person on the phone? Mm-hmm. And all they're doing is just aggravating you. You're already a little bit upset because you have to call in and figure out, listen, whatever, your website's broken, I'm trying to get to this, I can't find it. Well, first of all, why are you hiding it?
Exactly.
Secondly, I can't understand this person who's supposed to be trying to help me.
Yeah.
So there goes your negative experience. I'm like, you know what? It's time to move my bundle.
Exactly. And that's where somebody who is marketing a consulting service and they can market and sell the benefits of that service, being able to retain your customers longer, being able to reduce your churn rate. Because corporations, businesses, if they're successful, they know their numbers, so they know, okay, this is how many customers we pick up on a monthly basis. This is how long we keep them, and this is what the churn rate percentage is. So like for me, for instance, just applying this back to the game of social media, like I love Twitter, and I'm always growing my audience. Every single week, my audience grows on Twitter. And just because I gain another 443 followers the past week, that doesn't mean that I kept that many. I have a churn rate of like 10 to 20%. Right? So I have to know, okay, well, out of the 443, I know I'm going to lose 20 or 40 to 50, 40 to 80, right? That's 10 to 20%.
Sure.
That's okay. That's just part of the game. But if somebody would come in and say, well, here's how to reduce that number to 3%, well, then that would be a benefit.
Of course.
So that person who's selling customer service, we're just kind of using this example right now, has to be able to figure out how do I get clear on what that product is and what are the benefits that's going to serve and solve the pain points of the people, the target market.
Right.
That's the most crucial piece of this entire game, because if you don't get that right, no marketing is going to help you. No pretty website, amazing podcast, confidence and certainty is going to help you, because no one's going to listen to you, because it's not saying, hey, you have this pain. I can save you from that, and here's how. Would you like to play? And the people who are going, man, if I just had better customer service so I could reduce our churn rate, so I could be able to maintain customers longer, because I know it costs me more to generate new customers than keep existing customers on board.
Sure.
That would actually help me increase my profitability without me doing anything differently from a marketing and sales standpoint. It's it's optimizing what I have, which is really good. It would take me from good to great. How do I do that? And then somebody's able to come in with a marketing message and talk to that pain and position as a solution. Now they're like, let's have a conversation. But that conversation would never take place if that person transitioning out of corporate is not taking the time to get clear on the product, what its features are, so they know how to deliver that product, and then also what are the benefits, so they know how to then message that product to the marketplace.
That makes sense.
Good information.
As always.
Right.
Well, this guy's. What are you going to say about AJ? I mean, the guy's awesome.
There's
no getting around it. We're going to take the time here real quick because I know you have to go. unless you have any more knowledge, I can sit there and squeeze out of your rock. I mean, we're going to let you go because I know you're a very busy man.
Dude, I could sit here and talk with you guys all single day. So if there's one last thing you guys want to talk about, we can get in that. Or if you want to wrap this up, we can wrap this up. Whatever's going to support you guys today.
Yeah, you know what? I think we're going to let you go so that we can have... I always want you back. And I don't
always
wanna,
want you back. I know, I was in my mind going, what other topics could we talk about?
When
this
can
has been
I
great.
bring him back? All right.
Thank you
With
so
that, Mr. AJ Amyx, thank you for being here.
Of course, thank you.
Dude, you're always cracking knowledge on these folks. I love that. The lovely Amay, thank you.
Jose, thank you. And thank you, AJ, so much. Always a pleasure to have you.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, this has been another episode of Dance Teachers Academy. Thank you for listening.